Good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 2nd of July. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with breaking news of a possible shooting attack at a naval shipyard in Washington. The D.C. Navy Yard is the same site where a gunman killed 12 people in 2013. It is now on lockdown amid eyewitness reports of an active shooter. Meanwhile, security at the White House has been stepped up as a routine precaution. Here at home, the defense establishment has bolstered forces along the nation's borders with Egypt and the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip after scores of Egyptian security personnel were killed in an unprecedented wave of orchestrated attacks by terrorists allied with the Islamic State in the Sinai. Israel is supporting Egypt by lifting a restriction contained in the Camp David peace treaty between the two nations that barred the Arab Republic from sending additional warplanes and reinforcements into the peninsula. We get more from IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan.
The Egyptian army was hitting back hard against Islamic State terrorist forces who dealt a deadly blow yesterday with a coordinated assault on numerous checkpoints and the town of Sheikh Zayed near Rafah. The militants claimed to have launched as many as 15 simultaneous attacks on military sites. The Egyptian army admitted that 17 of its troops, including 4 officers, were killed, but that at least 100 militants also died in the fighting. Some reports put the Egyptian army death toll much higher. The Egyptian military has vowed to wipe out the Islamic State fighters, but reports said that by yesterday evening, fighting in the Sinai, the biggest since the Yom Kippur War, had died down, yet airstrikes against ISIS commands continued. Israel has put forces on alert along the Sinai border and also along the Gaza Strip to foil any potential spilling over of the conflict. However, it reopened today the Kerem Shalom crossing to allow 600 trucks bearing food, medicine, and building supplies into Gaza, but the Nitzana crossing into Egypt remains shut. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the Islamic State attacks.
We see ISIS at the gates, across the border in the Golan, across the border in Egypt. We send our condolences to the government and people of Egypt for the fallen Egyptians slayed by ISIS terror. We must stand up to all the forces of militant Islam, those led by Iran, those led by ISIS. We should not strengthen one or the other. We should weaken both of them. And as we do this, we'll continue our quest for a durable and secure peace with the Palestinians, mindful that we must not let militant Islam gain another foothold.
Israel has okayed bolstered Egyptian forces in the Sinai as required by the Camp David peace accords. Residents of northern Sinai complained of negligence, underdevelopment, unemployment, and poverty. And since the ousting of the Muslim Brotherhood in 2013, Islamic fundamentalism has found fertile ground there. A strengthened ISIS has spilled over into Gaza, with Islamic terrorists threatening to topple Hamas in Gaza. Israel's former national security advisor said this could actually push Hamas to be more moderate with Israel.
For us, the understanding that Hamas is fighting ISIS is not making Hamas a good friend of Israel. And we have to live in a world in which the enemy of my enemy is also my enemy. Of course, if this threat will change Hamas in the future, and Hamas will recognize the state of Israel and will be ready to live nearby in a peaceful way, no question that we will have relations with Hamas, but that will not be Hamas as it is today.
The success of the Islamic State fighters and the apparent inability of the Egyptian military to quash them is raising eyebrows in Israel and could destabilize Gaza. Just 1 year after the start of the Gaza war, it's become clear that potential Islamic State rule in Gaza could be even worse than Hamas. Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Joining me now in the studio to discuss the situation in Egypt is former Israeli ambassador to Egypt, Tzvi Mazel. Thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. All right, as soon as the news of this massive attack broke, Israel immediately closed the Nitzanim and the Kerem Shalom border crossings with Gaza and with Egypt. How serious of a threat does this Islamic State presence in the Sinai pose to Israel?
It's a danger, absolutely, yes. We thought at the beginning, 2 years ago, that the we expected the Egyptian army to stop terrorism in northern Sinai, or at least to limit it. But now, we saw after the last attack, we saw that the Egyptian army has not succeeded doing it. It's a problem. And also during that small war yesterday, the terrorists took over 3 or 4 or 5 armored cars. And armored cars are a danger for Israel because they can penetrate into Israel by breaking the fence. So it's a real danger. We are on the alert, all of us. We are on the alert. All the kibbutzim, all the towns around Gaza in the Israeli side have been given instruction how to behave, and the army is ready. But it's a problem. It's a problem.
Now, the current president, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, is a former military commander who is firmly committed to battling the terrorists.
Right.
Yesterday's attack was a massive blow. Why do you think that he is having so much difficulty in reasserting control of the Sinai?
It's a complicated issue. First of all, as I understand, the Egyptian army has not enough special forces that can really fight in the mountains, in the desert, against guerrilla forces. It's a very complicated war. They are not ready for it. The Egyptian army is ready to attack in masses, like the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. They have not changed yet their way of thinking, and now in Sinai, in the desert, in the mountains, they face a different situation, and they are not accustomed. Second, there is a real problem also about the relations between the United States and Egypt, and it's connected to this issue. The Americans were supposed to give them the equipment needed to fight in those conditions during the night, and also to train them. They have refused to do it since Obama has become the friends of the Muslim Brothers, who are fighting against Sisi, against Egypt, who are the enemies of Egypt. And we knew when Morsi, the President Morsi of the Muslim Brothers, was in power, he was trying to impose an Islamic dictatorship. And since he was elected democratically, Obama fell in love with the Muslim Brothers who just don't understand. So there is a problem. Egypt is a very important country. Very, very important country. It's the most important country, Arab country, the Middle East. If Egypt falls to Islam, it's a disaster for Europe, for Israel, for America also. And that question, that problem is not understood. It's not understood in Washington. It's pity. So, I mean, I linked it to Washington. It happens here, but it's a global war. So there is a problem. The Egyptians are in troubles. They have not succeeded, and we are also in troubles because we are their neighbors. We try to help them, but our help is out of the eyes of the public. Only on only some intelligence issue. You see, not more than that. We cannot fight together with the Egyptians in Sinai against terrorism. It would not be accepted.
Former Israeli ambassador to Egypt, Zvi Mazel, thank you very much for coming in this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thank you. In other news, an estimated 1,000 demonstrators gathered in front of the Prime Minister's residence last night to demand stronger action be taken to confront the recent surge of terror attacks. In addition to bolstered security measures, Yesha Council Chairman Avi Roe says that within 24 hours of any attack, the government should respond by announcing the building of 200 new housing units over the 1967 lines. The protest was held the same day as the funeral of 26-year-old Malachi Rosenfeld, who was murdered near Shvut Rachel on Monday in a shooting attack that also wounded 3 of his friends. Turning to the Iranian nuclear negotiations, and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry held a series of meetings with international negotiators, including British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond, in Vienna, ahead of his scheduled session with Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif this evening. All sides continue to claim that progress is being achieved in the ongoing talks, while the extended deadline of reaching a final agreement on July 7th now appears to be increasingly uncertain.
I haven't set any deadline. We will continue and we will make progress. We have made progress and we will make progress, and we will use every opportunity to make progress.
We are working very, very hard. We have some very difficult issues, but we believe we're making progress. And we're going to continue to work because of that. Thank you all. Thank you very much. We have our own sense of deadline.
Well, what I would say is that the work goes on. You're going to see over the next few days ministers coming and ministers going to maintain the momentum of these discussions. I don't think we're at any kind of breakthrough moment yet, but the work is continuing, and we will do whatever we need to do to keep the momentum.
How strong of a hand is the U.S. showing in the negotiations? Professor Gil Troy told IBA's Eli Wogelenter that he feels the West is being very weak because U.S. President Barack Obama is determined to make this deal happen.
Most recently, President Obama is talking tough vis-a-vis the Iranians. I don't believe it. In rule number one in negotiations is it's important that you show that you're willing to walk away from the table and that you show that you're less anxious to have a deal than the other guy. And Obama has consistently shown that he's more anxious to have a deal than the Ayatollahs. And so this moment of posturing is put against a broader series of retreats, and especially since the April agreement in Lausanne, there's been just a whole series of attacks, verbal attacks by the Iranians and retreats by the Americans. So I hope Obama is understanding that, first of all, negotiation 101, second of all, Middle East bargaining 202 is hold tight. They're the ones under sanctions. They're the ones with economic troubles. America should hold strong. America is the superpower. He is the leader of the free world, and he should act like it.
But everything we've seen so far in this presidency is that this deal with Iran is the most important deal he's going to make. This is his legacy. And therefore, nothing will stop this deal from going through. Is that right?
There are two things going on. One, Barack Obama, the politician, has decided that an Iranian deal is essential for his legacy, and he's anxious to put that piece to bed. The second is a broader issue, which has been going on since the 2008 campaign when he and Hillary Clinton argued about this. Since the Green Revolution, when people looked to Barack Obama to give some support to the Iranians who were protesting against Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the ineffectual election, and Obama was silent. Obama truly believes that the role of the United States in the 21st century is to reach out to the Muslim world, reach out to the Islamic world, following his Cairo speech, following his Iranian appeasement, and he's trying to do that. And so it's not just that he wants the treaty, some kind of agreement as part of his legacy. His broader legacy is Barack Obama created a new balance, new sensitivity to the third world that the previous Eurocentric American presidents like George W. Bush didn't have. I think it's a mistake.
Local celebration of America's 239th Independence Day was held at the Herzliya residence of U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro yesterday, just a little early this year since July 4th falls on the Sabbath. Guests enjoyed live music, appropriately American-themed catering of McDonald's and Domino's Pizza, as well as fireworks over the Mediterranean Sea. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Reuven Rivlin, and Ambassador Shapiro gave the keynote speeches at the Red, White, and Blue Jubilee, with each highlighting this special bond and close relationship shared by the United States and Israel.
The United States of America was established to secure the natural rights of all of its citizens, of life, of liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And our institutions of government were formed with the central purpose of protecting and promoting those rights. But if you read the words of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution side by side, you discover that our founders were deeply influenced by Jewish tradition. The pursuit of happiness is closely connected to things often singled out in Jewish texts for pursuit, namely justice, tzedek tzedek tirdof, and peace, bakesh shalom v'rodfehu. Here in the Jewish state, we see a similar commitment to building a just society. In the words of the Israeli Declaration of Independence, mushtetet al yisodot hacherut, hatzedek v'shalom, la'or choznam shel nevi'ei Yisrael, based on the principles of freedom, justice, and peace inspired by the vision of the prophets of Israel. This is America, and this is Israel.
Our relationship is, first and foremost, an emotional one. Indeed, for Israelis, America still stands out as a leading, solid super brand. It is a brand in which we feel confident because behind the glamour of Hollywood, the magic of Manhattan or New Orleans lies core values, as you have said so, Mr. Ambassador, which we both deeply share. What you may say as truth, justice, an American way, as Superman said, we may say freedom, democracy, and good old Israeli chutzpah.
This is a great day because on the 4th of July, all Israelis unite with our American brothers and sisters. It's our celebration too. That's because the history of our two countries is remarkably intertwined. The founding fathers of America were inspired by the Bible and specifically by the book of Exodus, by the dream of building freedom in a new promised land. And if you stand in the chamber of the American Congress, you see right across you the image of one man, Moses, with a quote from the Bible. And since the establishment of the United States, that's 2.5 centuries, the vision of justice and the vision of peace espoused by the prophets of Israel served as a guiding light for Americans, from Thomas Jefferson to Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King to many others, seeking to form a more perfect union. But just as our heritage inspired America, America inspired us. If you read the founding fathers of Zionism, you see how powerful an inspiration the American Revolution was. The ideas of freedom and liberty, they reverberated everywhere for people seeking liberty, but they reverberated powerfully for the Zionist movement and the ideas of reestablishing our land, our promise, our justice here. Zionism has always been about freedom, about national freedom, the Jewish people returning to our ancestral homeland to rebuild our one and only sovereign state. But it's also been about personal freedom. We built the state of Israel on the same democratic foundations upon which the United States was built. And what a remarkable foundation it's proved to be.
Just 3 days before the holding of a referendum on an international bailout deal, citizens in Greece are voicing increased concern and confusion. Just yesterday, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras wrote a conciliatory letter to creditors asking for a 2-year loan rescheduling plan that accepted many of Europe's terms, but then abruptly reversed course and is now claiming that Athens is being blackmailed. He also rejected reports that he may delay or cancel the Sunday vote or even urge his citizens to support the measure. The chaos is eroding public support for the Prime Minister's advocacy of a no vote on the referendum. Turning to Oklahoma City, where a monument of the Ten Commandments is being removed from the Capitol after the state Supreme Court upheld Oklahoma's constitutional ban against using government property for the benefit of a religion. The 7-2 verdict came in response to complaints that the 1.8-meter stone engraving violated the federal provision against the government establishment of religion. The court rejected arguments from several legislators that the privately financed monument marked a historical event and didn't serve a religious purpose. In their ruling, the justices wrote that the Ten Commandments are obviously religious in nature and an integral part of the Jewish and Christian faiths. Sir Nicholas Winton has passed away at the age of 106. He was known as the British Schindler for rescuing 669 Jewish children from Czechoslovakia at the beginning of the Second World War. After the then 29-year-old clerk at the London Stock Exchange realized that the looming danger that was posed by the German occupation, he single-handedly set about arranging transportation to Britain for Czech youngsters by paying bribes, battling bureaucracy at both ends, and finding British families to provide financial guarantees and homes for the children. His rescue efforts tragically came to an end in September of 1939 when the Nazis invaded Poland and England declared war on Germany. Winton remained silent about his mission for over half a century until his daughter discovered his archives and gave them to Holocaust historians. He then received widespread media attention and top honors, including being knighted by Queen Elizabeth. President Rivlin said that Winton will be remembered as a hero from the darkest of times, a man who valued human life above all else. Here now is a portion of a 60 Minutes interview that Sir Winton gave to late CBS reporter Bob Simon in 2014.
Did you approach any other countries to take some of the children?
Yeah, Americans. But the Americans wouldn't take any, which was a pity. We could have got a lot more out.
Winton had written President Roosevelt asking the U.S. to take in more children. A minor official at the U.S. Embassy in London wrote back the U.S. was unable to help. Britain agreed to accept the children, but only if Winton found families willing to take them in. So he circulated the children's pictures to advertise them. But even after a family chose a child, British authorities were slow in issuing travel documents. So Winton started having them forged. He also spread some money around.
Took a bit of blackmail on my part.
You were indulging in blackmail and forgery to get the children out.
I've never heard it put like that before.
But you seem to be enjoying it.
It worked, that's the main thing.
What a remarkable man. And now taking a look at local finance, the shekel today put in a mixed performance in foreign currency trading, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were down across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. The IBA weather team tells us we can expect a pleasant start to the weekend with a slight drop in temperatures tomorrow. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow, and I'll be back to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.